Okay, everyone, welcome to our presentation about Somerville Middle School electives. I just want to let you know before we get started and I hand it over to our superintendent that on the very last slide of the presentation that you can see right now, there is a link to questions. So if you have any questions and you haven't already submitted them, please go to that link, and we will be checking that throughout the presentation and also answering the questions towards the end of the presentation that we get tonight, as well as the ones that have already been coming in over the past week or so. So with that, I'll hand it off to Dr. Tian.
Thank you. Just so you know, yes, we're live streaming this. We're also recording it. So anyone that was not able to attend the live stream or here in person, this huge crowd that we have, then you can still watch it online after it's all posted. Just to start off, my name is Tim Tian. I'm the superintendent. We have a number of administrators and teachers that are here. We have Joanna Satana in the back, who is doing translations into Spanish for us. We have Melissa McEntee, the director of 21st Century and also school security specialist. We have our new addition as a guidance counselor for the middle school, Nashua Badaway. I always say it wrong right now. I try to roll it. We have Alex Bartfield, who is now Alex Glory, who is part of our supervisor of curriculum instruction. And then the two most important people, we have our assistant principal, Lonnie Peruso, and our new principal, and he'll be talking tonight as well, Anthony Benjamin. So welcome all. So everyone should know that the change to the middle school schedule was not something that we did overnight. It's actually been a process that's been going on for a minimum of 3 to 4 years, probably longer. This has been a joint effort. This is not an administrative effort. This has involved feedback from students. One of the things as a superintendent, I actually meet with executive student council, and they are a very honest group of students, and they tell it like it is. And one of the things they had made suggestions that were actually all incorporated into this schedule. So we got information from them, we got information from students in general that gave feedback on what was working, what wasn't working for the schedule for the middle school. We had a lot of feedback from teachers. We had several committees over the years that have looked at schedules. We have probably created, I would say, no less than 30, 40 different schedules that each had its own pluses and minuses to it. So what we've created is actually the culmination of all of this work, and we're pretty proud of it. Now, we're not guaranteeing that there's not going to be glitches with it. With anything new, there will be glitches, we know that. But we think it is a really good schedule and the best benefit for all of the students. One of the things that was voiced the most about students was that they wanted to have voice. They wanted to have choice in the elective courses that they take. So that's one of the things that we incorporated into this was student choice. Some of the other concerns was for world language Spanish in the middle school, where they were getting really, in some cases, 2 Spanishes in one marking period, and then nothing, only maybe 1 Spanish for part of it, and then nothing for the rest. So we've actually really improved that, where it's Spanish every day. So throughout the year, they will have Spanish every day. Same thing with phys ed. There's going to be phys ed every single day. Phys ed health will be every day. We're going to go through all the the schedules or sample schedules, so you'll see that. Other improvements were the actual courses that were being offered. We listened to students and we listened to the staff, and we were trying to get a sense from the staff, what is it that they are most passionate about within their field? And with that, also taking into consideration, what do they believe that students of that grade level would be passionate about? And then we listened to what students had said. We actually did a student survey to see what they were most interested in. We gave them some of those suggested potential topics. And from that, that's how we formed what classes were going to be offered. So in a nutshell, that's an overview of it. And so I guess we'll move on to the official first slide, which is the requirements.
Thank you very much. So just to briefly go over the requirements, students over the course of their 3 years in middle school will have to select a minimum of 1 art, 1 music, and 1 STEM option. So that's particularly important for our 6th grade students because they're brand new to this. Our 7th and 8th grade students have already been exposed through cycle courses over the time that they've been in Somerville Middle School. So we will work with them individually over the course of the year to make sure, the course of their years in the middle school to make sure that they meet the requirements, but they have already been exposed to each area, so they should be good. Students who do not meet the mandatory course selection by 8th grade, this is mostly for students who transfer in. So we will make sure that they are placed in the correct courses so that we can be sure that they meet the standards that are required by the state of New Jersey for students in middle school grades. Any student that transfers in during 8th grade will be assigned an elective based on their transcripts. So if we see that there's a standard that hasn't been met in their sending school, we will then fulfill that requirement with one of our electives during their 8th grade year. Also, it's very important to point out that students and all families need to make sure that they complete the form, the student elective selection form, by the 12th, which is Monday at noon, so that we can schedule students accordingly. One of the questions that had come in was, are we giving, are we using the first comes, first serve type of model to schedule students? We are not. We're not going to schedule students until noon on the 12th. Once that closes, then we're going to look at everything and try our best to honor the courses that students have picked that they're most interested in. We can guarantee that students will receive 2 different electives for each throughout the school year, but we cannot definitely say that students will get their first and second option during the school year. It might be their first and third, it might be their second and fourth. But we are going to try our best, and that's all based on scheduling, class size, and so students are not necessarily going to get their top 2 picks, but we are going to do our best to try to make sure that they are in classes that they are interested in. So we have electives. This menu here is hyperlinked to go to any of the slides that are based on the department and also based on the grade level. So what you'll notice when you look at this is that we have in each department different grade level choices. Now these are choices, as Dr. Tien said before, that we're trying to appeal to the interests of the students and also try to tap into the passions of our teachers by offering these types of courses. So there are different numbers of courses that are available as electives for students based on their grade level. The reason for this is because there are scheduling times for different teachers, so we had to make sure that there's a balance between teacher load, between different types of classes. So there are more periods available for, let's say, 6th or 7th grade rather than the options for 8th grade. One of the things that I'd like to point out is that each of these is hyperlinked. So if you click on, let's say, for example, Art 2D and 3D Experience, that will bring you directly to the, oops, sorry, that skipped one. It really will, I promise. That will bring you directly to the page that says Art Options, and then it will explain each of the options to you and to your child about what types of courses are offered in each different area. So we're not going to go over each area right now. What we'd like to do is just scroll through and let you know that as you look at the different options, we're going to just highlight our music options now. Any student that is in 7th or 8th grade has the option of taking studio production as well as advanced chorus. So those are 2 different music options. 7th grade students will take 7th grade studio production. 8th grade students would take 8th grade studio production. If a student in 7th grade takes it and then decides again in 8th grade to take it, please know that that course will be different the following year. We do, though, suggest that students definitely try to get a broader experience through their electives and try not to repeat courses. Also, advanced chorus is an option for students in 7th and 8th grade. They will be offered during a single semester for 7th grade and a single semester for 8th grade. However, this does not take place of our chorus program that has been in effect in the middle school for all 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. That will still take place in the mornings as it has in the past. This is an extra class that students can participate in if that is something that they are passionate about, and they will be able to take that during one of the semesters. We also have a number of STEM electives that are options for our students. When we polled students and we looked at what are they interested in, what types of courses are they interested in, computer science, STEM, technology, engineering, they were off the charts with what students were really interested in. And that speaks to what we are passionate about as a district. We noticed that through our coding program in Vanderveer, we had students from kindergarten all the way through 5th grade receiving coding and programming and technology, engineering instruction very often. And then when we had our cycle classes, students had a very small, limited window, about 28 days, to interact with this content. We also are very cognizant about the number of job opportunities that there are for individuals now and in the future in STEM-related fields. We wrote and won a computer science grant at the high school level to increase computer science and STEM opportunities for students at the high school. So what we're looking at here is this menu for students that gives them more options in these areas, so that we can see if they are passionate about this and they are interested in these areas, that then they can look to the high school options that we have and try to extend that content and that interest.
And I just want to add in that, if you think about it, it doesn't matter whether your child is truly interested in a career within the STEM. It doesn't matter what career you go into, the knowledge and skills that you get through that are naturally going to be part of any career. So it really is in everyone's best interest to get a strong background in a STEM area so that they can use that and leverage it in their current future career.
Thank you. And we're also very excited to bring in future city and sustainable housing, because those are areas of global interest, and looking at the environmental impact will definitely help our students understand their place in society and how they can look to make the world a better place. So we're excited about those opportunities as well. So we're actually excited about all the opportunities, but I just wanted you to know specifically why these were different and why we were offering extra courses in STEM fields.
Another thing to note is a lot of these courses, we try to, when the teachers were creating them, they were talking about wanting to, in a sense, branch out of just whatever their subject area is. So you're going to see a lot of these courses, when you read through them, you can see how other elements, so if I'm teaching, say, art, I might be incorporating some math, I might be incorporating some science, I might be incorporating some world language. So there's a lot of cross-curricular that's going on in all of these areas. Can you do the next slide?
Sure.
And then we have phys ed. Everyone will have their normal phys ed and health. That's not changing. That's one of the few courses that the state requires is an exact number of minutes, that we need to have 150 minutes of physical education and health. However, we wanted to offer other opportunities for kids as well. And so 2 of the electives for 7th grade were dance and yoga and cooperative games. Once again, this came from the student survey, and I don't know if you want to talk about it, why it's important for 7th grade? Or... All right, so 7th grade, the reason why we felt it would be best for 7th grade is because, let's face it, 7th graders are the group that is growing the fastest, that are really starting to get in touch with who they are, and exploring all of that. So being able to, in a sense, become more mindful and center themselves with these different areas, especially in the area of like dance and yoga, we thought that would be a really good outlet for them. And cooperative games, once again, you know, if you think about what are some of the struggles that kids have, especially in like a middle school setting, it's cooperation, it's getting along, and learning how to navigate that. So by bringing in cooperative games, you're incorporating things that they would be most interested in, some different games, but ensuring that you're focusing on the cooperation part of it.
You want world language?
We also have world electives for our students in 6th grade. Prior to this, students received a separate Spanish class, which was more language instruction and acquisition. And then they also had a cultures class. So we've revamped this based on what the teachers are interested in, and instead of just focusing on just specifically Spanish cultures, we're looking at world cultures, and especially cultures in Latin America, as well as the evolution of Latin music. So we're not going to read through everything as we had it on all of the slides, but it's important for you to look through and read each one with your child or children to make sure that they are making choices that are most appropriate for them when they go to fill out the survey. Okay, so now we're into a sample grade 6 student schedule. So we put these up here, 3 different options. These are 3 fictitious students. And what you'll notice, or what you should notice in each of these 3 slides for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, each student every single day will receive math, ELA, science, social studies, lunch, of course, they have to eat, and also they will receive Spanish instruction and PE/health instruction. In addition, each student will have an elective of their choice, and this is 1 elective per semester, so it would be about half a year, 2 marking periods, and then the last 2 marking periods will be another elective. So as you see, our core courses are 1 full hour. Each period that we have, 1 through 12, is 30 minutes with 2 minutes passing time. And from our experience and the tests that we've run, we know that that is plenty of time to get anywhere you need to go within our building. So one other important thing to notice here is that when the schedule was created, we were mindful of looking at the time that students ate lunch in 6th grade. When Dr. Tian had met with the executive student councils over the years, students that were transitioning from 5th grade to 6th grade were, there was a big adjustment for them. They were eating almost an hour later than they had in Vanderveer, so this is consistent for them with what they're used to try to help them transition into middle school. And also, where the lunch schedule for the 6th grade is keeping all the 6th grade students together, so that they're all eating lunch together as a unit as they acclimate into middle school.
They're also the smallest group, so it's important to note that they are the smallest group. You'll see that the 7th and 8th grade lunches are different than this. So they're both larger groups, and the group will be split up into 2. So instead of having 125 students, it'll be more like 60, 65 in a lunch period.
One question that actually came to mind was, hey, Mr. Benjamin, what would happen? Why are our 6th grade kids eating so late in the day? Well, we want to be consistent, as Melissa said, with what the kids in the 5th grade were actually experiencing at Vanderveer. But you should note that it's not on here, but we're going to assure our parents that our kids are going to have an opportunity to have snack throughout the morning. That's really critical. When we go to the next slide, we're going to see an 8th grade schedule, and you'll see that the 8th graders are going to actually have lunch earlier, so then they'll have an opportunity to have a snack in the afternoon as well. So we want to ensure that that's not a concern that our kids are actually having. So you see a 7th grade schedule here. Same thing, English, science, Spanish, PE, health. We have lunch, which is usually a traditional and typical time in which lunch is usually held. Electives, math, and then the social studies. That issue with regard to that snack may not necessarily be an issue, but it will be something that we're going to support our teachers being able to provide our students an opportunity to have snack throughout the day. So that's really important. And then we can run to the 8th grade schedule, and you'll see that lunch is actually at 10:46 to 11:16. And again, what you'll notice with the 2 different schedules, you'll have lunch elective or elective and lunch, we're making the decision to actually split up the lunches to ensure that we have smaller 8th grade and 7th grade lunch periods. More easy to maintain and support, them being able to have more opportunity to socialize and engage in, constructive, interactions with each other throughout the day. So we're really excited about that.
You can even talk a little bit about how you're empowering the kids a little bit, maybe during the lunch period.
Yeah, we're actually going to do some different things with regard to the lunch. In the past, from my understanding, there was a different setup by which the kids would actually, stand outside and then come in. We think that's a little too restrictive, so one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to have the students actually come in and they can sort of kind of go up and collect their, get their food, pretty much at their choice. So we want to give them that opportunity. They're at a point right now where we want to let them know that you have choice and give them options to sort of kind of make, great decisions. They're not going to be standing along the line outside. They get to come in. They may want to sit down for the first 10 minutes and actually hold a conversation with someone. And then say, hey, give me a minute. Let me run up there, grab something to eat, then come back. And so that's an opportunity they're going to have this year.
Because if you think about it,
What is the benefit for a student sitting online for 7 minutes where, they're only talking to the person in front of them or behind them or, trying to cut up to or go back in the line to somebody else. So this actually makes more sense where the kids can sit where they want with their friends, and there's only going to be half of them. So it's not going to be, like we said, 125 or 130 kids. It's going to be 60, 65. So there's going to be less kids, easier for them to spread out as well. So they'll have more space between them because let's face it, 7th and 8th graders are a lot bigger than 6th graders, so they need a bigger space.
Okay, thank you. So as I said before, this last slide does link all of the resources that were listed in the parent letter that went out. So the first one is the slide presentation that we're actually, we ran through tonight. The second one is the elective selection. That's our survey, which I am going to show you shortly how to complete. The third one is actually a video that I made to show you how to do what I'm about to show you to complete the elective selection. The next one is the SMS scheduling question. So if you haven't already and you do have a question, please select that link and enter your question because we will be answering those as soon as I run through how to complete the elective selection form.
you might want to say about.
And if you're at home and you're watching this after this is already over, if you still have questions, you can still enter in questions into that link, and we will email responses back to you. So we're going to try to address any question that possibly comes up.
And then there's a link to the live stream, so that's the link that we're looking at right now. But as Tim said, this will be archived, so you'll be able to watch it at any time and rewatch it if you are really entertained, which we hope you are. And the final link is to request information in Spanish. I'm sorry, my Spanish isn't very good, so I don't want to embarrass myself right now. But what we're doing is we're providing resources to parents who need that this information in Spanish. And so we have our translator, Mrs. Santana, in the back. She is trying to translate everything that we said, and we will include that as a video with her translation as soon as we can, a little bit later on tomorrow. Okay, so let me show you how to complete our elective selection. Okay, so when you select that link, the first thing you will see is the information that this is the selection for the 2019-20 school year, and it does reiterate the dates and time that I said that the survey is due. It is due on Monday the 12th at 12 noon. So anyone who has not completed the schedule at that time, we will then place them into courses, into electives based on the size of classes. So the first thing you'll do is to put in your email or your child's email, either one. Just please make sure that when you get to the student's first name and student's last name, you definitely put in the student's first name and last name so we can give them the proper schedule.
Even if they have multiple kids.
Yes, even if you have multiple kids, and thank you, I'm glad that you brought that up. My mistake earlier was to only set the form up to receive one selection per person, and that was my fault for not realizing that there may be families with multiple students in the middle school. So I apologize for that. Tim did fix that, and so everyone should be able to revisit this survey and submit again for any child or any additional child that you have in your family. So you're going to select the grade level that the student is entering in September and then select next. From here, this is where you're going to want to sit and make those decisions. Students have the options that are listed on the left. Those are the options for the entire 6th grade, and they link back to the slide presentation that we just showed you. But what's important is students are going to have to rank every single course from 1 through 6. The reason is we want to know at each step of the way what is of the most interest to the student, what's in the middle ground, and also what is of least interest, so that we can try to make sure that students receive electives that they are highly interested in. So there should be only one item checked off in each row, and also just one in each column. So I'm just going to go through. Please know that this is not in any order of what I think students should select. This is just completely random. So I'm just going to go from the top. This is my first choice. Now you notice as soon as I do the first choice, I'm getting this error message here. That is going to work itself out once you've selected one per row per column. So let's say that I go here. This is my second choice. This is my third choice. This is my fourth choice. This is my fifth choice, and this is my 6th choice. Before I select this 6th choice here, all right, I'm going to select it just so you can see how that works itself out. If I made a mistake and chose 2 in the same column as my 5th choice, I'm still going to have that error message. So once this pinkish background is then white and you don't have any error messages, this has been done correctly. I urge you though to double check it with your child. Make sure that you definitely have selected your first choice all the way through your last choice. And again, depending on the grade level, there are a different number of choices for that grade level. Once you're finished, you're going to select submit, and then that is going to come into our database, where we're going to look through individually at each student and then try to match them up with courses that they are most interested in.
I want to answer just a potential question I could see on that.
Yeah.
One of the potential questions I could see is parents saying, after they've done this with their child and they've had a first and second choice, let's say, and let's say the child didn't get that. Let's say the child got the 3rd and the 4th choice. And they say, well, that's not fair. My child didn't get the 1st and 2nd. One thing to keep in mind, though, is prior to this, no one's ever had a choice. So you got what you got, whatever we had available, and that was it. So this is the first time we've ever offered this opportunity for kids to have choices. But part of life is there are choices, but you also have to realize you're not always going to get what you want. That you have to sometimes settle for that next best choice. But we will definitely make every effort to ensure that every student gets something of their choosing. Because our goal really is to have kids in classes that they really want to be in.
Do you want to do the question and answers that have been posted?
Yes.
Or actually, do you want to start with questions? Either of you? Anyone in the audience? The whole crowd out here? Do you have any questions? Yes.
If there's one elective that gets an overwhelming response, is there any option of opening up more than one section of that, or is the staff limited where it's only one section of each of them?
That's a great question. For those that can't hear that, the question was, let's say if the section is limited to 25, which they are, if we had 50 kids that were interested in that course, can we create another section of it? Unfortunately, due to the limitation of the number of staff that we have within that area, we could not do that. High school has that opportunity because they have multiple teachers within every subject area. So where one course might have a higher number of students, they can open up another section. and if another section doesn't, they just don't offer it. They close it, and they might have had like 4 kids that wanted that. Is that an option too, where we could potentially look at something like that? The answer would be yes, except the problem is it would be at the same time. So we couldn't handle 50 kids at the same time. So where the high school can do that, we can. Yep.
A follow up onto that, I think when we were looking at this with my 6th grader, the 7th grade art looked more appealing to him than the 6th grade art, so he put art lower. If he doesn't get the 7th grade art, if there's 50 kids who want that 7th grade art, is it potential to offer that again when they're 8th graders?
Yeah, this is the schedule that you see here is for this year. And what our plan is, like we always try to do, we will survey the kids as this year goes on, and we're not going to wait till the very end of the year, because let's face it, the end of the year is crazy. So we're going to try to get the kids earlier. We're going to survey them to see what courses did you like, which ones didn't you, which ones you wish we had, which ones did you wish we had more options, what one would you rather in your grade level. So yes, we can tweak that, and we can move those things around based upon the input. Yep.
The other thing to keep in mind, especially in the scenario that you just told us about, so if let's say your child decides not to take that 6th grade course but wants it in 7th grade, our requirement is, as a school district and also through the state, is that we have to make sure that students have an art class and a music class and a STEM option over the course of the 3 years. So as 7th grades, as current 6th graders are looking at their 7th grade schedule, we have to have those conversations with the students too, as Tim said, to kind of guide them in that direction and say, okay, well, you already took a music. If you take another music this year, then when you're in 8th grade, you have to take an art class and a STEM class. So those conversations will be had with the guidance counselor as well as the teachers to make sure that they fulfill the requirements. So that may alleviate some of the constraints that we have as far as class size. Okay, so we're going to ask Mrs. Caruso to read out some of the questions that we've received already, and we'll do our best to answer them.
Okay, so some of these were already answered, but I'll go over them again. We had a question that we received about students having the opportunity to take French next year, and the answer is yes. We will still be offering the online program of APEX for the students to be able to have the opportunity to take French. Second one was answered already by Ms.
Hold on 1 second for the French.
Is that for all students, or is it just folks that were enrolled last year?
No, it's a great question. For French, it's actually open to all students. So if a student did not elect to do the French last year when we had offered that, and maybe they heard great things about it, or they just want that extra challenge, they can do that. The other thing to keep in mind is that a student can still enroll in the French even if they're taking Spanish class. Now, would they be able to fit it within their school day? No, they wouldn't. So they wouldn't have a period set up where they could go and do that. So they would be doing it because the French is online. So they would do the French online, but they could still take advantage of the other option, which would be the other opportunity, which we're hoping to put in place so that we had in last year, which is possibly have French teachers come down like once a week just to confer with kids. We haven't officially established that yet. We have to see the availability of the French teachers in high school, but if they're available and we can work it out, then we're going to try to offer that as well. So yes, if your child didn't have it last year in 6th grade and they want it in 7th grade because they heard great things about it, they can do that. If they want to just take French, then the French would be in that schedule where the Spanish is. If they want to do Spanish and French, the Spanish would be in the schedule as it is. The French would be something that would be just extra. That answer?
Okay, the second question was about being able to register 2 children into the system from one family, and we fixed the glitch in that in the system, so you will be able to do that. The other question was about how if it's a first come first served basis in terms of when students submit their surveys. Again, they are due at 12 o'clock on Monday, August 12th, and once we receive all the surveys, we will be reviewing them and do our best to try to take the students' choices as best as we can to schedule them. And the last one was, where do I sign my kid up, or do they sign up in school? And you must click the link that Ms. McEntee showed you to follow the steps to complete that survey. Final one is since there will be gym every day, will the kids be able to change? And the answer is no. We just don't have enough time in the day, enough time in the schedule, and we also don't have staff and
You've
locker.
never done that before.
And students have never in the middle school have had the opportunity to change. I know that there were A and B scheduled days prior to that, but please know that the way we are running the phys ed / health class is actually that. So some days students may have health and so that's they wouldn't necessarily be engaging in physical activity in the gym. So that's something that you should be mindful of too, that there is that kind of dual class going on. So, and another thing that we've heard too, or Dr. Tian has heard often in his executive student council discussions with students, is that they feel like it's really a waste of time for them to have to change, especially at the high school for gym or phys ed. So, and they do have at the high school, they have phys ed every day. So, to answer that question, the answer is no, they do not have to change. They will not change.
Any new questions that came in?
Nope, so no new questions that came in. Does our lovely and extensive audience have any other questions?
I have the Spanish curriculum for 6th and 8th grade. I didn't realize that it looked like on your schedule the Spanish is a smaller class period. It's only half an hour. What's the goal? I was thinking that they'd have a full class period, so I was gonna say, like, what do we expect, like a 6th grader coming in having 3 years of Spanish to get out of it? But I guess the question is still there. I was hoping it would be more.
It actually is more when you think about it, because prior to this, Spanish was opposite phys ed. So they have phys ed one day for 48 minutes and then Spanish for 48 minutes. Now they're having Spanish every day for 30. So in that same 2-day period, they're actually getting Spanish for 60 minutes as opposed to 48. So it's actually better for them.
Yes.
And we did take that into consideration, because one of the things that, when you're talking about world languages, the constant exposure is what also helps you acquire that language. And so from speaking with the Spanish teachers, and once again, constructing the schedule was their input as well. There was preference to have it not just at a time period of the year or on an alternating basis, but to actually have it consistently throughout. As far as the curriculum, they have been actually working, and they're going to continue to work on looking at our existing curriculum and revising it and improving it. And that's something that we do in all curricular areas. We are always looking at our curriculum and trying to improve it.
I guess the question more is like, where do I expect him to fall at the end of 3 years? Is it going into just Spanish 2? Is it like 2 full years of going into Spanish 3? Like, what, in terms of entering into the high school, what can I expect if they pay attention and they do well? Be able to achieve in freshman year high school.
Yeah, so what do we expect from the kids coming out of the middle school? We do expect them, especially as the years go on, because one of the things we've put in place now starting next year is actually Spanish in the elementary school. So we're going to have kids that are now getting exposed to Spanish starting in kindergarten, working all the way up. So, what would we expect? We expect the kids to be acquiring the language and really going to whatever level they can. We have 2 phenomenal Spanish teachers here in the middle school, and their plan is to push them. And with the consistency that will be going on with it, we think that will definitely happen. As far as placement, once again, we love every kid to place in the highest possible Spanish. I think you're going to have variations within that, because some kids acquire languages better than others.
But would they have the curriculum after 3 years in the middle school to expect that they would be able to, that they would know two years of high school Spanish? Or how much are we planning to teach them? Or
Well, you want to say that?
I would think, it's right now it's designed as a middle school class that's going to prepare them for Spanish 1. So, I think that the goal is to have those accelerated students that we can, push and I will say that the two teachers that we do have are going to be looking for those students that are really able to connect with the content, connect with the fluency, and be able to maybe test for the a higher level of Spanish in high school. So that is the way I would answer that question.
I'm still confused. My concern is that my 8th grader is a high achieving student, and he was bored at the beginning of last year. And I know that there was like a lot of issues that were worked out with Spanish last year, but he's like 2 months in, he's like, I don't know what I think this year. Because it was every other day, and I don't know what was going on, but then he started to learn some more stuff. But it seemed like it was a lot of repeat, so I'm just wondering if there's a structure for 3 years of Spanish that's going to progress them along to a point where they have a broad base where they can expect to be in Spanish 2 or Spanish 3 as well.
Well, fluency and immersion are oftentimes the goals, especially when you're engaging in this high level of Spanish learning language. I think one of the things that ultimately ends up happening is students, much like Melissa said, some kids are moving much further along than others. They get to a point where they can actually test out or test up, and it provides everyone an opportunity to do just that. So I think that's one of the things that our Spanish teachers are actually working on, to try and provide some type of independent study or some type of different immersion activities that will really enhance their skill, so that when they test up, they're appropriately being put in the right classroom setting.
I still don't understand. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just not understanding correctly, but you said it's a middle school program to prepare them for Spanish 1 in the high school. Is it just to expose them and make Spanish 1 easier, or are we trying to master a certain level of Spanish?
We're trying to master a certain level of Spanish so that they can enter into Spanish 1 and then be ready for Spanish 2, and then maybe even AP Spanish if they're if that is something that works for them. One of the things that we can say is that your 8th grader definitely will have a different experience than a student that is in 6th grade, because the curriculum that they are building is cohesive, and the classes and the two teachers are working together to have their classes more aligned and to have more activities. If you look at the Twitter feed of either Mrs. Cantori or Mrs. Santana, it shows the types of activities that they're doing. It's a lot of games, it's a lot of interactive, it's a lot of hands-on. So it's exciting for kids. I was actually able to witness the summer program that Mrs. Cantori was doing over the summer, and students were engaged. They were, really doing things at their own level, and they were really working on their fluency, but they were also excited about doing it. So that experience is going to be different. What I would also say is we would offer the option to have APEX as a supplement for any student, especially your 8th grade student. If you feel that they may be at a deficit, that's also an option to kind of like reiterate that and to give them more programs, more options. We could also connect you with our director of curriculum instruction. She wasn't able to be here tonight, but she's been working closely with the teachers who are writing the curriculum, and she would be able to kind of give you a broader sense of what the curriculum is going to look like from 6 all the way up through 8, and then how that can prepare them, and then what options students have in the high school.
And if your question is, because it sounds like it's very specific to 8th grade.
No, I mean, I have a 6th grader as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, but more the 8th grader because of the gaps that have happened over the last year. Once again, our Spanish teachers are phenomenal. So one of the things that they know is that the kids are coming in at different levels. So if somebody is performing well, like you said, they're bored, but they need that more of a challenge, these are 2 individuals that definitely be able to push them. And like with any course, like if you feel that your child is not getting the maximum experience that they could, I always suggest reach out to the teacher and say, hey, I feel like my child could benefit from more or a bigger push or whatever it might be. And once again, these 2 teachers are more than open to try to do that with you. You have more questions?
Yeah, we have another question, that came in. Thank you to Ant-Man7 online, who is watching at home. He has asked, Can my child take 2 STEM electives in 1 year? The answer is yes, but we would caution you to make sure that students are meeting those requirements by the end of 8th grade, that they have to take a STEM, an art, and a music. So there are 6 options from 6th grade all the way through 8th grade. So any 6th grade student that is intending to graduate through middle school has 2 options per year to meet those standards. So yes, they could take a STEM option, but just know that if they're a 6th grader, know that the 2nd year, when they're a 7th grader, they would have to take an art or a music, or a STEM and art, or STEM and music. So just keep that in mind. But if you have specific questions, let's say if a student is in 7th grade or 8th grade, can they take 2 STEM classes this year? Absolutely. They can take STEM classes if they have been in our 6th grade, because through the cycle courses that they received last year or the year before in Somerville Middle School, they have been exposed to courses in art, music, and STEM, so they would have had enough exposure to fulfill the standards. Yes.
English is dropped down. It used to be a double block. So how does that affect how the English classes are being taught and what the curriculum is there, as well as staffing?
I don't know if you want to hit that. I can talk about the staffing if you want to talk about the curriculum part. It's up to you.
Yeah. I know that the curriculum will be the same, that there will still be writing, there will still be reading, there will still be independent reading, and as far as the pacing will be altered a little bit, but there, as far as I know, no huge curricular changes. The expectations are the same.
So it's just compressed
Yeah.
in a shorter time. I know that there was some times where they had like a lot of downtime.
Yes, I was just going to say that we all know that there's always downtime within, especially in a course that was double what all the other courses were. The other part of it to keep in mind is that, you know, the writing, which you just talked about, is actually something that the training that's going to be going on is actually going on in other curricular areas as well. So you're going to see improved writing instruction going on elsewhere. And as far as the number of teachers, we haven't changed the number of teachers. There are still 2 teachers. The actual, and that's a big part of this too. The other thing to keep in mind is that the class size is actually kind of small. So although you might have less minutes, you're actually going to see more, I would say, a better teacher to student ratio. We have 1 less teacher in 6th grade, but the incoming 6th grade is smaller. So that's why it didn't impact that either.
You had something else?
Yeah.
I can tell you were itching.
I know. I thought of something else while Dr. Tehan was talking. Dr. Tehan also mentioned that writing is going to be something shared across the disciplines. Same with reading. We've actually been talking about a lot of ways for the teachers to use team time to really work on, you know, interdisciplinary skills and really give students opportunities to practice and enhance the reading and writing skills in all of the content areas.
And for those that don't know, team time is a time where the whole grade level of that, the whole grade level gets together and they discuss what their students, they discuss the curriculum that they're teaching, they talk about what each one is doing, so it's a time for them all to collaborate. So that's where that makes it a lot easier for that cross-curriculum area articulation. I see you got more.
I've got more. Can you pull back up the sample 6th grade schedule? I just wanted to take a look at that.
Yeah, keep in mind this is 3 sample students, so and that's a great point. The one on the left is just 1 sample. The one in the middle is a different student, different sample. The one on the right is a different sample. You can actually, since you have 4 core areas, you can actually have 4 different schedules that can be altered within the core areas. So even though we gave English language arts 1st and 2nd, science first and second, and math first and second. You can also have social studies first and second. And so the language arts can be in any one of the language arts, math, science, or social studies
But
blocks.
the core will be in the morning.
Yes.
And everything else is in the afternoon.
Yes, for 6th grade.
So I know that usually it used to be that they're only allowed to go to their locker at lunchtime. Does that mean that they have to take all of their stuff for their main courses with them in the morning?
No, there's actually time embedded in there where they can actually change and go.
Sorry.
There's time embedded in the schedule. If you look at it from one period to the next, they have the 2 minutes. They're all on the same floor. All 6th graders on the low floor, so they have an opportunity to actually get back and forth to their lockers and actually get to class on time.
So that will be less structured than it was in the past? You guys are looking at me like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Mrs. Peruso?
Can you just clarify?
It used to be, they were only allowed to go to lockers like before and after lunch. So they took all of their morning books with them, and then they went to their lockers and dropped it off. And then they went to lunch, and then they took all of their afternoon books with them.
Right.
So are they gonna have to take all of their main subject books with them? And also, will they return like it says PE health goes all the way to 3
Yeah, Spanish,
o'clock.
PE health. PE health's at the end.
So will they go back to their will they have to still go back to their homeroom after 3 o'clock
No.
to put their Chromebooks back?
No. And there's a reason behind that. I don't know if you want to say that now. Let's go ahead.
Okay,
Take
all
it.
right. So based on schedule changes and also feedback with, speaking with students, speaking with parents over the past number of years, this is my 5th year in the district as the director of technology. We're actually, through the schedule, since we don't have an initial homeroom at the beginning of the day and a homeroom at the end of the day, we are sending Chromebooks home with students each day. So students will be able to use those as resources to do their homework, which we have seen over the years that there is an imbalance where some students have access to devices at home, access to Wi-Fi at home, and are able to do their homework, are able to do research, are able to do extension activities, and we also have a number of students that don't have that capability at home. So we are trying to, through this process, try to narrow that digital divide by giving students the ability to use those resources at home. We have a whole plan in place that's going to come out next week for parents to know what that's going to be like, what that will look like, what the expectations are. We will have resources within the building. We have a Chrome Zone at the high school that helps students if they need to charge or if they've forgotten it, because those things do happen, or if they need a repair. We will have a similar structure here in the middle school to support students and to support teachers, as well as building administrators. So yes, it is the Chrome Zone Junior or middle school Chrome Zone, and we are actually really excited about that. And there are a number of local districts that are doing the same thing, have been doing the same thing as early as 4th or 5th grade. So we're actually trying to make sure that we're giving our students the same resources that neighboring districts have, so that they're prepared in the same way that other children in other districts and in other families have that opportunity. So
The original question was the blocker question.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we
Have said is that, and that is a great question. Whenever you roll out something new, yes, you're gonna run into some glitches, and if we need to put something in place to address a glitch, we will. So, the principal and assistant principal will be looking at that and seeing how it rolls out, and then once it's in action, then they can say, okay, let's think of this as a potential, because do we want kids to carry everything all day long? No, that's never the intent. We can look at what it is that they're carrying, because that's another big question is, what is it that they're carrying all day long? Or what have they been carrying? Do they really need to carry all that stuff? Is there a way to have some of that stuff stationary in those classrooms where they're actually going to be? So we can do some workarounds around that once we see it kind of roll and see where it goes. We don't expect this to roll out without any glitches. We expect glitches. We expect problems. We expect people to say, "Oh, this isn't working." It happens when you do something new.
And speaking of glitches, I just noticed that on the 6th grade schedule, we had Spanish all the way across and then PE all the way across, and that's not the way it's going to work, okay? So we're going to have some students that are going to be in Spanish and some students that are going to be in PE at the same time, but through the magic of Google and technology, I was able to update them very quickly and share that out with everybody. So there you go. That is, got more. Okay.
That was my next question.
Okay.
So the Spanish, there will be 3 sections of Spanish with 3 Spanish teachers for 6th grade in that block. So will there be like 6?
4.
4.
Because phys ed and Spanish are opposite each other. In the hour block, you have 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes.
Okay. So
you actually have 4.
So
and I know one of the problems with alternating the PE with the Spanish that I heard last year was that the class sizes for the Spanish were
Yes.
large. Is that going to be,
No.
Spanish class sizes will be smaller in the new schedule? Okay.
We looked at you can say
We looked at every single subject to see how the class sizes would be impacted, and across the board, and we're not saying it's perfect across the board, but across the board, the class sizes are better across the board, every grade level. Oh, she's looking at the bottom of her page, which means she may be done.
we appreciate the questions because if anyone
Making a lively audience, it's a good thing.
And also, if you have a question, I'm sure there's other people out there that have either are either at home looking or will be looking at the video and wanting to ask the same question. So we we appreciate that.
But they can also email myself or Ms. Bruzo if they have any questions.
Absolutely. Are there any other questions from the audience or any other questions that are coming in from online? Okay, let me just check over here and make sure that we don't have any on our feed. Okay, I don't see any more there. But just a reminder, we are going to look at on Monday afternoon after 12 o'clock p.m. We are going to be looking at all of the student responses about what courses they're most interested in, and then we will begin the work with the whole administrative team and our guidance counselor to try to make sure that students are placed in courses that are of interest to them.
Make sure they know the schedule's not coming out on the 12th.
Oh, the schedule is not coming out on the 12th. We will let you know via school messenger when we are finished with that. And it is going to take us a little while to make sure that we do our due diligence and look at each student as an individual, try to put them in the courses that are of most interest, and also to make sure that the class sizes are of a good solid size for the teacher and for the benefit of the students as well. So we're expecting it to be a couple of weeks before we get those schedules out, but we will do our best to try to get them out as soon as possible. And there will also be information coming your way about the Chromebooks and how that whole plan is going to work out for students in grades 6 through 8 for next year as well. So that information will be coming out later this week, and I'll also offer another parent session for the Chromebooks. Yes.
Not for the schedule.
Not for the schedule. You can submit your questions or email Mrs. Prusso or Mr. Benjamin. Anyone have any closing questions or closing remarks?
Can you reiterate the importance of doing this before 12, or actually it's going to be mandated, or we're going to mandatory?
Okay, yes, so that's a very good point, Mr. Benjamin. So make sure, please, families, that you have these conversations. You look at what your options are at each grade level, and make sure that you fill out the survey before 12 p.m. noon this Monday. Okay, so you have a few days to make those decisions. Anyone who has not submitted, any child who has not submitted that survey by noon on Monday, August 12th, will be placed in classes based on where we can fit them at that point, because we are going to be looking at the students who completed the survey first and trying to fulfill their wishes, and then we will look at all the rest of the students that have not submitted, and we will try to place them accordingly. Okay, well, we thank you all for braving the thunder and the lightning and the rain, and we want to thank all of our guests for being here, and for those of you that are at home, we hope you are nice and cozy and cool and dry, and thank you for joining in. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. All of this is posted on the middle school website underneath headlines on the left-hand side under SMS Scheduling.
Thank you, Tyler and Corey.
And thank you to Tyler and Corey of the technology staff. They helped us set up all of this today to make sure that the live stream worked perfectly. Also like to thank Mrs. Santana for translating for us, and we will get the video in Espanol up as soon as possible. Thank you all. Have a great night.